Hey, and welcome back to another Learning Java 2D Game Programming video. So in our last video, we first fixed a performance issue caused by our alignable container that spans this entire window. So we weren't using its generated sprite anyway, so we're making sure that our UI canvas used in our states does not actually generate its own sprite. But other than that, we also made it easier to see when our little NPCs are coughing. So before it was very hard to tell when they were coughing, but now you can easily see it. And later, we can implement some sort of difficulty setting. So maybe if you do it on easy, you will have this effect, but if you play on a harder mode, you will not. So that's something we can do. Also, possibly we're gonna reduce the size of those. But our main focus for today's video is actually to change the gameplay a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is I want this time up here to instead be a timer. So I want it to count down, not up. And when it's reached 0 and there are still sick people in our map, well, then we have lost. So more than that, I want to add a score. So when you successfully isolate a sick person, you're gonna get some score. If you isolate a healthy person, you're gonna get some penalty. So we're gonna get a minus score. And in the end, we are also gonna add some value to our score depending on how much time we have left. So let's get to that. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to the game package and this time class. So we already have this get formatted time and a lot of stuff that's very helpful for us. So we're going to make the timer extend time. However, then I don't want it to say updates since start. So I'm going to shift F6 and rename this to current updates. So that way it can work both ways. All depends on what we do with it. So I'm just going to create a new Java class. I'm going to call this a timer. So this will extend time. All right, so now this timer is a time, and we can use this current updates, but it's going to have to be protected as well. There. So what do we want for our time? Well, when we have reached 0, then we most likely want it to do something. So for now, we're just going to keep a runnable and call this callback. And then let's make a public timer. It's going to take in an int. Maybe we want to take in a double. So that way we can have not only whole seconds. So a double seconds, and then a runnable, which will have whatever's going to happen when this timer runs out. So callback. I'm going to say that current updates is equal to get updates from seconds. There we go. All right, and then just set the callback to callback. Now let's override the updates. Public void updates. And I'm going to say if our current updates is larger than 0, then let's decrement it. And then if our current updates is equal to 0, then let's do the callback.run. And possibly let's actually keep this if statement inside the other one so we don't call this callback every single time, every update after we've reached 0. We don't want to do that. So there we go. Now let's go to our game state. And here, instead of this game time, I'm going to have a timer. And I'm going to shift F6 and call this maybe game timer. All right, so that's going to be a new timer. And now we need to send in how long do we want our game to go on for in seconds? So I'm just going to pass in 120 seconds for now, and then we need a callback. So we already have this lose method that takes no arguments. So we can use a method reference and just say this lose. So as you remember, if I just find that lose, the runnable just wants a method with no arguments, and this is fulfilling that interface. So this can be used as a runnable. And it's going to do all of these things. So that's great. Now let's see, updates. If not paused, then we update it. And I'm going to say timer here instead. Game timer. All right, so we also have to use it in our UI game time, and seemingly this worked out of the box. Let's just try that out. All right, so it wasn't harder than that. Now we have a timer that is counting down instead of up. I'm just gonna speed the game up a lot. I mean, I guess we could have just exited the program and changed it to a smaller number. I just want to see that we are defeated once we reach 0. And we are, and it doesn't continue counting backwards, so that's great. All right, so first part of this is done. Wasn't too hard. Now let's add a score. I'm just gonna open the game state back up. You didn't have to close that. I'm gonna add this in here first. I'm gonna say score, and it's gonna start at 0 since this is just an int and not an object. So that's gonna start at 0 when we win. Here, I wanna add to this score. So score, actually, let's make something called apply to score, which will take some value, and let's make it an integer. But here we want to get the seconds, so game timer has seconds maybe, and then times some value that we want each second to have. I'm just going to put 100 in here for now, and let's just make as seconds first inside of time. Also, this wants to be an int, and it's going to return update current updates times, or rather divided by game loop.updates per second. So that's going to give us the current time as seconds. And then let's make this apply to score. Maybe amount. All right, so score is plus equals amount. Great. Let's make a getter for the score. There we go. So now we can make a new UI. So I'm going to make a new UI class that I'm just going to call it UI score. This can be a vertical container. Let's make that public UI score. Now these don't have to take anything in anymore, which is much better. So great. So what do I want to do in here? Well, I want to add the label score, and then I want to have the score, and it needs to be updatable. So we need to keep a reference to it. So I'm going to say new UI text, or here, private UI text score. So first, let's make score into a new UI text. Let's just set 0 to begin with. And then let's do add UI components, new UI text, say score. And then we also want to add this score. Now let's override the updates. So we know that this will be a game state because we've put it in the game state package. So I'm going to say game state, and import that is equal to, and then we need to cast this state to a game state. So now we can use the get score, and we will. So score.setText, game state, get score. And this will complain that it's an int, so let's do string value of. All right. Now we need to use this UI score. Actually, we also have to set the alignment. Set alignment. I'm going to make a new alignment, and it's going to be at the end of our x-axis, but at the start of our y-axis. So upper right corner. All right. There should be a setup UI method somewhere. Initialize UI. And it doesn't matter in here which order you put it in. I'm just going to make UI score. Let's see if that worked. And it did not. And I think I know why. I forgot to call super inside of this update, which is kind of important for it to calculate all of the sizes and positions and things like that. All right, so there we have it. Here's the score. Currently, it doesn't update though, so let's do something about that. I'm gonna find our player, and when we, let's see, is requesting action. So we're pressing the spacebar button, and if we have a target, then we are performing a blow bubble around that target. So I'm just gonna check. First of all, we need to check that we don't have an action. So if action is empty, then we want to do something to the score. And if we don't do the action is empty, then we could spam our spacebar and be adding or subtracting score many, many times while we are performing this blow bubble. Also, we have to do this before, because if we check after the blow bubble, then the action is never going to be empty because we've added this action. All right, so here we want to do something to the score, and I'm going to say state.apply. Let's see, right. So we have to get the game state here as well, just like we did in the other one. So there we go. Now game state. Apply the, oh, it's got the wrong, apply to score, yes, but it's private. So let's make that public. There we go. So what do we want to apply? Well, we need to know if this target is affected by sick or not. So target dot is affected by sick.class, and we need to import it. So if they are sick, then let's add some value, and I'm just gonna pick a value here. Otherwise, let's add the inverse of that value. So now it should do something to our score. So let's check that out. So for now, I'm just going to find anyone. So he wasn't sick, obviously, because we have minus 250 score, minus 500. Ooh, there's a sick one. So let's see when that goes up. Minus 250. Can we find another one? Oh, there's one. No, stop, come over here. All right, great. So we got 0. Was it him? Yes, 250. There's only 2 left. All right, you don't want to see this. It worked. So great, that worked. What I want to do now, I'm just gonna make the end or the menu a little bit nicer so that we can display when we've won. I want to see our final score in the middle of the screen. So therefore, I'm going to make some updates to this UI game menu. So first of all, instead of keeping a label, let's keep a UI container with some contents. I'm going to say header content is a new, let's make it a vertical container. It's not going to take anything in. And let's make sure to add that here. And And then here I'm going to say set header content. It takes a container. And in here, we're just going to do header content. Let's clear whatever's there in the beginning, and then let's add the content. All right. But what else is, I don't want this header container to be inside this dark gray thing with the rest of the buttons. So we're going to make a different container for the button. I'm just going to move this header content down. Now let's just make a new container. There we go. So the button container is the one that's going to be dark gray. Yep. And then all of these things are going to be added to our button container instead of this super container. And then down here, let's do add UI components button container. Now I'm pretty sure that I'm going to want to button container set padding to some new spacing, and that's probably going to look like 0.555, because we've done that before. I don't know if I need to set anything in here yet. We'll do it if we have to. Center children. Yes, that's right. All right, so now we need to use set header content instead of set label from our game state. So here in, let's say, defeat, I'm going to make a new UI container, content, new vertical container. So content, I'm just going to add new UI text with the words defeat. So it's going to be like before. And then I'm going to say game menu, set header content to this content container that we just did. And for now, I'm just going to do the same here and call this victory. Because this means that if we just duplicate this for now, we can add another one that maybe just has the score. I'm just going to say string value of score. And then when we go into pause, we need to do the same. I'm just going to say paused. So now if we just try this out and press escape, then here you can see we have this paused, and yeah. So it's a little small and a little sad. Let's do something about that. And I'm going to go to our general UI package for our UI system with our components. I'm going to create a new package here, and I'm going to call it text, because I want some variance on this UI text. And I mean, I guess we could allow you to change this component from wherever you want and set whatever of these that you want, but it's quickly going to get a little messy. So let's define some different ones that we can use. And one of those are going to be a UI header. But that means that we need to make these protected so that we can access them from. There we go. So I'm just going to say extends UI text. We need to create a constructor matching super. So down here, I'm just going to say font size is something else, like 32. So twice the size of the regular text. And probably we want to do something about the drop shadow offset. So I'm going to put that to 4 maybe. Since it's larger now, we want the drop shadow to be more offset. I'm going to try this. So let's just use that over here. So a header, UI header. And I'm also going to use it for this victory and the score possibly, and for this defeat. So let's just look at that. I don't know. I'm just gonna resume and I'm gonna turn on debug mode so that I can more easily find the sick people so we can check out the victory screen. Stop running away. Okay, there we go. All right, I don't hate it, but we need to center this children. So right here, I'm gonna say content.center children true. So that should fix that. All right, this will be all for today's video. In the next video, I think we should see if we can't save our score and have a scoreboard so that we can see when we did it the best. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Hej då!